Welcome to Mindset Capital TV, where mindset meets money. This channel is built for thinkers, builders, and future leaders who understand that wealth starts in the mind. If you're ready to level up your thinking, your habits, and your income, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. The lie we all believed. From the moment you were young, you were told a simple story. Study hard, get a good job, earn a steady salary, and one day, you'll be financially secure. So you did what you were told. You showed up. You worked hard. You waited for raises. You chased promotions. And yet, you're still worried. Still planning around bills. Still one disruption away from stress. Here's the uncomfortable truth no one says out loud. A salary was never designed to make you rich. It was designed to make you predictable. Predictable income. Predictable lifestyle. Predictable limits. This documentary is not anti-work. It's not anti-job. It's about understanding why salaries create stability, but not freedom. And why the people who get rich almost never do it by earning more money, but by changing how money works for them. Once you see this, you'll never look at your paycheck the same way again. What a salary really is. A salary feels like progress. It's consistent. It's respectable. It's safe. But safety is not the same thing as wealth. A salary is a contract. You agree to trade time, energy, attention for a fixed amount of money. And once that contract is signed, something subtle happens. Your upside is capped. You can work harder. You can perform better. You can be more valuable. But your income still moves slowly, and only with permission. Raises are negotiated. Promotions are approved. Bonuses are conditional. Self-made wealthy individuals understand this early. Salaries reward reliability, not leverage. And reliability creates comfort. But comfort rarely creates wealth. Why hard work isn't the problem. Most people think the issue is effort. If I just work harder. If I just get promoted. If I just earn more. But hard work was never the missing ingredient. In fact, many salaried workers are some of the hardest working people alive. The real issue is structure. A salary disconnects effort from outcome. You can give 120% and still earn the same amount. You can create massive value and capture only a fraction of it. Over time, this trains the brain to think small. Not because you lack ambition, but because the system doesn't reward exponential thinking. Self-made individuals don't reject work. They reject linear rewards. They look for systems where output scales, ownership compounds, effort has upside. That's why wealth almost never comes from working more hours. It comes from changing the relationship between effort and reward. The psychological comfort that keeps people dependent on salaries. Salaries don't just pay bills. They regulate emotions. A salary creates rhythm, predictable deposits, predictable expenses, predictable stress, and predictability feels like control, even when it isn't. This is why people cling to salaries long after they outgrow them. Not because the job is fulfilling, but because the paycheck reduces uncertainty. The human brain is wired to avoid uncertainty. It prefers known discomfort over unknown possibility. A salary offers reassurance. I'll be okay this month. At least I know what's coming. This is stable. But here's the quiet trade-off. Stability lowers urgency. And urgency is what drives wealth creation. Self-made individuals understand something most people don't. Comfort delays the question, but it doesn't answer it. Eventually, time asks anyway. Why salaries train you to think linearly. Salaries don't just cap income. They shape thinking. In a salary system, progress is incremental. Growth is approved. Advancement follows steps. You climb ladders. You wait for openings. You earn increases slowly. This trains the brain to expect linear outcomes. More time, slightly more money. More effort, slightly more reward. But wealth is not linear. It's exponential. It comes from ownership, leverage, systems that scale. Salaries train people to optimize for efficiency, not expansion. To ask, how do I perform better here? Instead of, how do I build something that grows without me? Self-made individuals notice this mental shift early. They stop asking for permission to earn more. They start designing systems where growth is automatic. The real difference between income and wealth. Most people use the words income and wealth as if they mean the same thing. They don't. Income is what comes in. Wealth is what stays, grows, and works without your presence. A salary increases income. It does not automatically increase wealth. That's why a person can earn 6 figures and still feel fragile. Miss a few paychecks. Everything collapses. Self-made individuals think differently. They ask, what produces money when I'm not there? What compounds over time? What still exists if I stop working tomorrow? Wealth is built from assets, not hours. Ownership, not permission. Systems, not schedules. This is why wealth feels boring from the outside. There's no celebration every 2 weeks. No visible excitement. Just quiet accumulation. Why salaries create dependence, not security. Salaries are often described as secure, but security depends on control. And in a salary system, control lives somewhere else. Your income depends on company performance, management decisions, market conditions, policies you don't set. The paycheck feels reliable until it isn't. Self-made individuals don't confuse familiarity with safety. They understand anything you don't control can be taken, changed, or reduced. This is why many high earners feel trapped. Their lifestyle depends on a system they don't own. So they protect the salary, even when it limits them. This is the golden handcuff effect. Comfortable, shiny, restrictive. The fear that keeps smart people chasing paychecks. The biggest reason people cling to salaries isn't logic. It's fear. Not fear of poverty, but fear of uncertainty. A salary answers questions in advance. How much will I make? When will it arrive? What can I plan around? Those answers feel comforting, even when the answers are limiting. Smart people are especially vulnerable to this trap. They see the risks. They calculate the downside. They imagine everything that could go wrong. So they stay, not because they don't want more, but because they don't want instability. Self-made individuals don't lack fear. They simply understand something crucial. The risk you avoid today becomes the risk you live with forever. A salary concentrates risk into a single source. Lose that source, and everything is exposed. Wealth spreads risk across assets, systems, and ownership. One feels calm. The other actually is safer. How salaries train you to sell time instead of build value. A salary teaches one lesson above all else. Your time is your product. Hours in, money out. And once that lesson is learned deeply, it's hard to unlearn. You start measuring worth in hours, effort in exhaustion, productivity in busyness. But wealth doesn't come from time. It comes from value that outlives the moment it's created. Systems, equity, assets, intellectual property, things that keep producing after the work is done. Self-made individuals stop asking, how many hours will this take? They ask, does this build something that keeps working? That single question changes everything. It shifts focus from activity to leverage. And leverage is what salaries lack by design. What the rich own that salaried workers don't. The difference between salaried workers and the wealthy is not intelligence. It's not effort. It's not education. It's ownership. Salaried workers earn money. The wealthy own the thing that earns money. That might be a business, equity in a company, real assets, intellectual property, systems that collect value automatically. Ownership changes the rules. When you own, income is not tied to hours. Growth doesn't need permission. Upside is uncapped. This is why wealthy people obsess over equity, not salary. Equity compounds. Salary repeats. Self-made individuals understand this early. You don't get rich by being paid well. You get rich by owning what gets paid. This doesn't mean everyone must quit their job. It means everyone must stop believing a paycheck is the end goal. A salary can fund ownership. But ownership is what creates wealth. Why most people never cross the ownership line for. Narrator. If ownership is the key, why doesn't everyone pursue it? Because ownership introduces responsibility. When you own something, there's no guaranteed paycheck, no HR department, no one to blame, no fixed ceiling. Salaries protect people from responsibility. Ownership exposes them to it. This is the real fear. Not risk, but accountability. Self-made individuals accept this trade consciously. They understand. Responsibility feels heavy at first, but it becomes lighter than dependence over time. Most people never cross the ownership line because they confuse discomfort with danger. But discomfort is temporary. Dependence is permanent. How salaries can be used as tools instead of traps. A salary isn't the enemy. Misunderstanding it is. Salaries fail when they're treated as the destination. They become powerful when they're treated as fuel. Self-made individuals don't quit their jobs recklessly. They reposition them. They use salaries to cover survival costs, reduce immediate risk, fund ownership quietly, buy time to build leverage. This changes everything. The paycheck stops being something you depend on emotionally and becomes something you deploy strategically. Instead of asking, how do I get paid more? They ask, how do I convert predictable income into ownership? This is the bridge most people never build. They spend salaries on lifestyle. Wealth builders spend salaries on options. Options to invest. Options to learn. Options to experiment without panic. A salary used this way becomes a temporary advantage, not a permanent identity. The mistake that keeps people almost wealthy. Many people get close to wealth, then stop. They earn well. They live comfortably. They look successful, but nothing compounds. This is the almost wealthy trap. As income rises, lifestyle expands to match it. Not dramatically, but just enough to remove urgency. Nicer apartment, better car, more convenience. Each upgrade feels reasonable, but together they consume the margin that could have been converted into ownership. Self-made individuals resist this phase deliberately. They don't rush to look rich. They rush to become unbothered. They delay visible upgrades to accelerate invisible compounding. Because once lifestyle absorbs income, the salary becomes a prettier cage. The wealth equation salaries can't solve. Wealth follows a simple equation. It isn't taught in school. It isn't explained in job interviews. But it governs outcomes quietly. Wealth equals ownership times time times leverage. Salaries fail this equation. They offer no ownership, limited leverage, and time that resets every pay period. You start at zero each month. Ownership changes the math. Ownership means what you build today can still work tomorrow. Leverage means small inputs can produce outsized results. Time means compounding, not repetition. This is why two people can work equally hard for decades and end in completely different places. One repeats effort. The other compounds results. Self-made individuals organize their lives around this equation, even if they can't name it. They ask, what do I own? Does this scale? Will this still matter in 5 years? Salaries answer none of these questions. Why most people realize this too late? Most people understand this eventually, usually in their 40s, sometimes in their 50s. Often when options narrow, they look back and realize years were traded, energy was spent, but nothing scalable was built. The salary kept life running, but it didn't build leverage. This realization doesn't come with anger. It comes with quiet regret, not because they worked hard, but because they worked hard inside the wrong structure. Self-made individuals don't have better foresight. They simply question the structure earlier. They ask uncomfortable questions before comfort locks them in. That timing difference not intelligence, explains most wealth gaps. The shift that turns earners into owners. The shift from earner to owner doesn't happen overnight. It happens quietly. No announcement. No dramatic exit. No sudden leap. It begins with a subtle change in priorities. Earners ask, how much do I make? When is the next raise? What can I afford? Owners ask, what am I building? What will still exist if I stop showing up? Where is my leverage? This shift changes behavior immediately. You stop spending first and saving what's left. You start reserving capital for ownership automatically. You stop measuring progress in paychecks. You measure it in options created. Small ownership at first. A tiny equity stake. A modest asset. A simple system. A skill that scales beyond hours. None of it looks impressive in the beginning. That's the point. Ownership compounds invisibly until it doesn't. Self-made individuals don't wait for certainty. They understand. Clarity comes from action, not planning. So they start small. They stay consistent. And they let time do what salaries never can. Why your salary was never the problem. Your strategy was. A salary was never the enemy. It did exactly what it was designed to do. Provide income. Create stability. Support a predictable life. The problem was never the paycheck. It was the belief that the paycheck was enough. Wealth was never about earning more. It was about owning more. More control. More leverage. More time on your side. Once you understand this, something changes. You stop feeling behind. You stop comparing. You stop waiting for permission. You use your salary intentionally. You build ownership patiently. You let compounding work quietly. And one day, without drama, the salary becomes optional. Not because you escaped work, but because you built something that no longer depends on it. That's what wealth actually is. Not luxury. Not status. Not excess. Options. If this video shifted your mindset, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Remember, your mindset is your greatest asset. Protect it. Build it. Invest in it. This is Mindset Capital TV. We'll see you in the next one.